We've gone through Matthew chapter 1, Matthew chapter 2. We're at 16. And if I can read it in English, if that would be okay.
Great.
And then I want you to do your thing. I mean, I'm pretty excited about this. It says that when Herod saw that he had been tricked, in my English Bible, tricked by the Magi, he became very enraged and sent and slew all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in the it says here its environs, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had ascertained from the Magi. Before I have you comment, I want to ask a simple question. In the Hebrew Gospel Matthew, when it opens up and it says, and then Herod saw that he was, and there's a word there, and I think what Howard does is Howard says he was mocked. I don't know if you got a chance to even look at this.
This is a really important issue here, Keith. So all right. Now, here we're going to get to delve into some really hardcore textual criticism of the text of Hebrew Matthew. In other words, we have all these different manuscripts, and here I actually did something where I didn't do this in every case yet. It's an ongoing process. So like I said, there'll have to be Hebrew Gospel Pearls season 2. But for this one, I was able to go through every single manuscript and check to see exactly what it says in that verse.
Stop 1 second.
Yeah.
Stop 1 second. Nehemia, did I ahead of time call you and say, look at this? I did not.
No, you did not.
Did you call and tell me?
No, this jumped off the page. What are you talking about?
No, but here, no, wait. I
had to look at this.
No, folks, I want to stop for a second, Nehemia, because, I mean, again, here's the process that we're in. We're both looking at the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, and you've got these 28 manuscripts, which to me is a treasure trove of information, inspiration, and many revelations, pearls that come off it. But isn't it interesting? We're reading here, and this jumps off the page to both of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just telling you. I mean, it's like when you're reading Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, there's certain things that literally jump off the page. And so that's why I want to say this to our folks that are listening, people that are listening. If you want to go deeper into study, you've got an opportunity to go to the plus sections, and you can actually download a PDF that has the Hebrew word and then the English equivalent. It's called our interlinear, that you can use. And we're already finding, Nehemia, great news. We're already finding people that are doing this, and they're having the kind of revelations that we're having. So the pearls process is spreading amongst people all over. Now, go ahead and go into this because it's exciting.
All right. So let's actually start with the Greek here, okay?
Yes.
So, or the English translation of the Greek. The Greek has the word Matthew 2:16. The Greek has the word enepaichthe, which is translated in the NRSV as tricked. Delitzsch translates hetelu, which is they deceived.
Yes.
That's the Hebrew translation of the Greek, hetelu. And interestingly, Ginsburg, Salkinson and Ginsburg also have the exact same word, hetelu. It leads me to the conclusion that Salkinson and Ginsburg and Delitzsch were, I guess Ginsburg came later. So Ginsburg was consulting Delitzsch's translation into the Hebrew and using that as the basis for his translation, which is very common. When people translate today into English, they'll usually start with something like the King James, and they'll say, well, no, it got it wrong here. We have to change this. We have to change that. But they usually don't start with a blank slate, which is why you compare these different translations and they're so similar. And sometimes they're all wrong. And I'm talking about the translation of the Hebrew into English, but here it's the Greek into Hebrew of Delitzsch and Ginsburg. Okay, I'm not saying it's wrong here. It's just saying they deceived, they tricked is two different possible interpretations of the Greek. The King James has mocked.
Yes.
Which from what I looked in the Greek dictionary is definitely a possibility. Now, here's where the controversy comes in. In the British Library manuscript of Hebrew Matthew, and eight other manuscripts, so 9 of 24 surviving manuscripts in this section, right? We have 28 total manuscripts of Hebrew Matthew, but those 28 manuscripts don't cover all of Hebrew Matthew. Some are a fragment of one chapter, or 2 of them in particular are fragments of part of chapter 1. So 24 manuscripts survive on this verse, on this passage. 9 of the 24 have, they saw him, which makes absolutely no sense, and which is why Howard did what he did. In other words, let's read it the way the British Library and 8 other manuscripts have it. Then Herod saw that the astrologers or the Magi saw him. Then Herod saw that the Magi saw him, and it was bad for him, and his heart was saddened. Herod saw that the Magi saw him. What does that mean? And what it could mean is that he saw that they saw his intentions. That's one possibility.
Well, can I tell you what I did when I saw it?
Yeah.
Immediately when I saw that phrase, I went to the thought that when Herod saw that they saw him, meaning like they exposed him, meaning they found out what it was that he was doing. So that's
they thought they saw what he was about, what he was after.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's definitely the meaning of the Hebrew in these 9 manuscripts of Shem Tov's Hebrew Matthew. However, there are 7 other manuscripts that instead of they saw him, it says sherimu, that they deceived him.
Oh.
Now, here's the fascinating thing. The 2 words they saw and they deceived, those are tricked, really. They saw and they tricked or deceived. The difference is 1 letter in Hebrew. One is Resh Mem Vav and the other is Resh Aleph Vav. And in the writing of the Middle Ages, especially the semi-cursive, the Aleph and the Mem are virtually identical.
Ask me, I know.
Now, I think you can come to no other conclusion that they saw and they deceived started with a single reading. And one of those, Resh Mem Vav and Resh Aleph Vav, one is an error for the other. In other words, we have a definitive error here in Hebrew Matthew, along with the original reading of Hebrew Matthew, right?
Right.
Which one is the original and which is the error? I think I'd be inclined to think that Rimu, they deceived, is the original because it's closer to the Greek. But here I guess I'm revealing a Greek bias, right? They saw is also possible. What do you think about that?
I like they saw.
And
I'm going to tell you why. Yeah. I want to tell you why. And it really goes back to something that you exposed me to years and years ago. And it has to do with when you're reading in Hebrew, when you find words that are similar or words that have that are similar but may have a different meaning or a slightly different meaning. So when I was reading in Hebrew and I saw the word that when he saw that they saw, I immediately thought, oh, that makes sense. He saw that they saw him, they exposed him.
So there could be a sort of play on words here in the Hebrew.
That's what happened for me, but I love the fact that you check these other manuscripts. And folks, I want to stop and tell you something. This is the key, Nehemia, and I don't mind saying this. This is the key of the what I would call the legitimacy of this process. Having those 28 manuscripts, and more than that, having you being able to go in to compare and to contrast, how exciting is that? I mean, that's the thing that made you go, this study is based on all of the manuscripts. Yeah. So this is pretty exciting.
I just want to put this in context. So these manuscripts are handwritten, right?
Yes.
They're handwritten. They're photographs. In order to find something in them, it's a painstaking process of going through and looking. And, you open up the image, you're like, oh no, that's a later chapter. Now let's find this page. So let's say conservatively, it takes about 15 minutes per manuscript and there's 24. That's 6 hours of solid work for one word. But that's what's required. I mean, that's the process that's required to really get to the bottom of this. Now, we're not done with the story. It gets more exciting. Exactly. So we have 9 manuscripts that say they saw, 7 manuscripts say they deceived, difference of 1 single letter in Hebrew, a letter that's graphically similar, right? Aleph and Mem in this type of script are almost identical. One is definitely an error for the other. Which one, both, who knows, right? It's hard to say which is original. Probably, like I said, I gravitate towards the Greek. Here's the really exciting thing. There's 7 more manuscripts, Keith, where it says a completely different word, shela'agu. Doesn't look similar, is not graphically similar, completely different word, and it means they mocked him. So there's no question whatsoever, definitively, somebody came along and saw the word shera'u. They saw and said, well, that doesn't make sense. And that's not what's in the Greek. So they replaced it with a different word that means they mocked him based on the Greek or maybe the Latin. Wow. The Latin has inlasis, which is mocked.
Wow.
So it's beautiful what happened here. We have, it's a beautiful example of textual criticism where you look at all the manuscripts to try to get what really happened here. There's a smoking gun here. And I actually have the smoking gun that I'll get to in a minute. So we have the original reading, which is either they saw or they deceived. Take your pick. somebody came along and saw the word they saw, in Hebrew it's one word, and he said, that's not right, that's not what's in the Greek, and he replaced it with a completely different word that doesn't even sound similar, isn't written similarly, shela'agu, that means they mocked, based on the Greek. Clear as day, from 23 manuscripts, that's what happened. And then I opened the 24th manuscript, Keith, and the 24th manuscript, and this is not a manuscript Howard knew about. This is one of the ones that I discovered.
Wait, stop.
Yeah.
Before you tell us about this, what do you mean he didn't know about it? This is
Howard knew about 9 manuscripts of Shem Tov Hebrew Matthew.
Right.
And I've compiled a list of 28.
Yes.
And the last one I opened has Shera'u, that they saw. And then above the line, somebody wrote Shela'agu, that they mocked.
Stop the presses.
This is incredible. So we were able to put together from 23 manuscripts the steps that must have happened. It originally wrote they deceived. There's a mistake that says they saw, or at least somebody perceived that as a mistake. And in other words, maybe originally it said they saw, and somebody said that's not right, and they changed it to they deceived, thinking, oh, Aleph Mem, they're similar. This must be a mistake, so they corrected the mistake. Okay, so those are 2 possibilities. They saw, they deceived. And then we hypothesized that when they wrote they mocked him, that was somebody correcting they saw, right? And then we actually found the manuscript where that took place. This is unbelievable. And in textual criticism, you can't hope to have something like this where we actually found the manuscript where the shift took place. The scribe went in and changed it.